never know what to wear. Nothing looks good on me.
School should not be this hard. Other people don't have to struggle like this.
I'm last to pick up my kids again. What's wrong with me?
No one cares if I'm around. Would anyone even notice if I wasn't here?
I never.
I won't.
I'm not.
I can't.
These are the words that fill our heads every day. The thoughts we don't like to admit we even have. The feelings that discourage and hold us back. But it doesn't have to be this way. The negative thoughts in our heads don't have to hold us captive any longer. God has given us all the promises we need to crash the chatterbox.
Well, good morning. You guys doing all right this morning? You guys ready to crash the chatterbox? You don't even know what a chatterbox is yet. Come on. What is a chatterbox? Well, it's based on the book by a guy named Steven Furtick, Pastor Steven Furtick, and it's a great book. I highly recommend you pick it up as a supplement to what we're going to do through the next 4 weeks. It's really great. It gives you a lot more detail than what I'm able to communicate in 30 minutes on a Sunday. So, with that, what is a chatterbox? We all know a chatterbox, that person that just keeps going and going and going, like their mouth never stops. You meet that person? You are that person, right? Okay, but inside each one of us, there's a voice that is the chatterbox. We all have 60,000 thoughts every day. Did you know that? 80% of them, or 48,000 of them, are negative in nature. Did you know that? There's a chatterbox even within us. And I know you're probably thinking, TJ, do you really want to be the pastor that talks about the voices in his head? And I don't really want to be known for that, but I think it's so true that all of us experience that same chatter, right? You ever been there? You're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. Your relationship's never going to make it out of this. And the voice just goes. You been there? Say something to me, please. You're making me beg for this. Yes, you've been there. I'm not the only one. You were making me feel crazy for a second that I had voices in my head that you didn't have. Okay. But what we're going to do through this series is we're going to fight back against the chatterbox. We're going to crash the chatterbox. We're going to take that voice and we're going to put it where it belongs. We're going to identify it and then help kind of section off from our life. And in that we're going to do this over the course of 4 weeks. The first week, which is today, we're going to talk about this first part, which is, check this out, God says, I am. We're going to talk about insecurity today, and I'll jump more on that in a moment. Next week, we're going to jump on this, and it says, God says He will. We're going to talk about the future and some of the fear and anxiety that often comes with our future and our future plans. So God says He will. The next one is this, God says He has, which means He's taking care of the past. How many of you have something in your past you don't necessarily like, but you keep getting remembering it. You keep getting reminded of it, right? He's going to talk about that. And then the last one, God says, I can. It's not just the past, it's not just the future, but it's in the present. God says I can. He's given me the ability to do that. But this week, we're going to start off with week number 1 right here. God says I am. When you were a kid, did you ever say, I know you are, but what am I? Or I messed that one up. I can't even say it now. I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I, right? But here's what God says you are, right? We're going to talk about that today. The God says I am sort of a motion. And we're going to talk about insecurity. And insecurity is a tough thing to kind of dive into because we're too insecure to talk about it, right? Anybody have insecurities in your life? I saw like 2 hands because you're too insecure to raise your hand, right? Like we have insecurities there. And if I could define insecurity for a moment, what I would tell you is there's a way that God looks at you, and then there's a way you look at yourself. Insecurity is that difference. So God looks at you one way, that He sees potential in you, that He sees a greatness about you, that He loves you so much that He sent His Son to die for you, that He has an incredible plan for you and for your relationships, and He has this great plan for you. And then you look at yourself and go, I don't see the plan. I don't see the talents or the skills, the abilities to get there. I doubt that will happen, and that's insecurity. Insecurity affects our behavior, doesn't it? It affects the way we look at the world around us, how we treat the people around us. And insecurity is always informed by our greatest doubts. And so we have this chatterbox in our head, trying to inform us of all of our insecurities, which will ultimately determine our behavior, and our behavior ultimately determines our destiny. So the voice we listen to is really powerful, isn't it? If we listen to the chatterbox, it leads us in a certain direction. It leads us away in life that we may or may not really want to go, because the thoughts we consume will eventually consume us. And so that's why it's so important to crash that chatterbox. because those insecurities ultimately inform our behaviors and determine our destiny. So what do? How do we identify the insecurities in our life? Well, I've got a sentence I'd like to show you that you can fill in the blank for me, all right? Let's check this out. I am never blank enough. I am never, fill in your blank, enough. We all have this word, this thought, this area of our life that we'll fill the blank in with. And I'll be honest with you. There are times in my life, actually more often than not, that I am never smart enough. I get into situations, I'm like, God, I wish I knew the answer to this, but I haven't learned it yet. Or where I'm leading a church and it's growing at a pretty quick rate, but we're doing things I've never done before. I'm like, God, I'm not smart enough to handle this. I need some help, bro. Like, help me out. I always feel like I'm just a little bit out of reach. You ever been there? What's your word? What's your I am never something enough? Come on, somebody tell me one of them. Disciplined. That was nice and loud. I like that. I'm never disciplined enough, right? What's another one? Good. Skinny. That's a skinny. Never skinny enough. Okay. What's another one? Strong. I'm never strong enough. I heard someone say once, I'm not patient enough. Sounds like you have preschoolers at home, right? Like, whatever. But we all have these issues. But what's the reality is, when we say strong and we say, I'm never loved enough or I'm never smart enough, those are just the ones we want to share with people. But underneath those ones is one that we're so insecure about we can't even talk about, right? We'd never even bring it up. All of us, this is our insecurity test. This is where when we're faced with a situation we don't know how to make it through and we keep coming back to the same conclusion. I am never something enough. Good enough, smart enough, strong enough, skilled enough. Do you get what I'm saying? We all have that insecurity. This is the test to find out where it is. But we're not alone in this journey. In fact, there's people throughout history that have dealt with this insecurity, and they've done well with it. In fact, there's a guy in the Old Testament named Moses. Moses was a great man who led the people of Israel out of the Egyptian slavery to the door of the Promised Land. He led a bunch of people. He was known as Israel's deliverer from Egypt into the Promised Land. But the problem with that was he couldn't have done it he couldn't have become the deliverer unless he himself was first delivered by God from insecurity. And so today we're going to look at the life of Moses from the book of Exodus, chapters 2, 3, and 4. We're going to look at his life, and we're going to pull out 3 points this morning that are going to help us deal with the same insecurity that Moses had. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at his life, and we're going to listen for the chatterbox in the conversation. We're going to listen for the voice of the chatterbox kind of going, ch-ch-ch-ch, whispering in his ear. You guys ready for this? All right, let's check it out. Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 11. It's going to be a lengthy passage. Can you hang in there with me as I read it? Good, 2 people. All right. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, at the mountain of God, there in the wilderness, there separated from everyone else, there the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the flames of fire from within the bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over to see this strange sight and why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And he continues, and Moses said, here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, and get this, watch what God's about to say. He says, I'm going to do some incredible things. God said, I'm the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And at this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them out of the land into a good and spacious land. God's saying, I'm going to act. I'm going to take them out of slavery. I'm going to bring them to this great and promising land, the good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But watch this. God continues. Check it out. And now the cry from the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. Wait, whoa, hang on a second. God, you saw all these things happening. You want to make a difference, and you're looking at me, and you're saying, now go. I am sending you, Moses, to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Can you imagine having a conversation with God about all these amazing things? 1 million people leaving Egypt, going through the desert, and getting to a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey. The guys you've always heard about as a child, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this God is speaking to you, and you're going to lead those people into this great land. God's going to do these incredible things, and then he goes, and I'm choosing you to make it happen. How would you feel? How would you feel in that moment? Look what Moses says. Check it out, the next part of the verse. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Who am I? In this conversation, we hear God speaking about incredible things, about how he's going to deliver the people, he's going to lead them through the wilderness, he's going to bring them to the promised land, just as he had always planned to do. And he looks at Moses and says, I want you to do it. And then we hear Moses respond, hey, God, who am I in all of this? I don't think you have the right guy. Those are the two people in the conversation, but can I submit to you that maybe there's a third person there? Maybe the chatterbox is kind of whispering in Moses' ear. That it's not just Moses kind of going, I don't know if I'm good enough, but the chatterbox is speaking too. Moses is responding. He's going, God, I'm not good enough. Who am I? Who am I that you would use me, God? I'm so messed up. Or if you're taking notes this morning, why don't we write this down? Number one, I'm so dysfunctional. I got an amen on that one. Okay, good. God, you said all these great things were going to happen, and then you look at me. Who am I? I'm messed up, man. I'm dysfunctional. I'm jacked up. I'm screwed up. I'm bleeped up. Something, there's something wrong with me, God. I'm not the guy. You don't even know, God. You might not have seen this, but I was pretty bad in my past. I've done some pretty messed up things. And Moses hears the chatterbox speaking to him. But you ever notice how the chatterbox doesn't accuse you? The chatterbox didn't say to Moses, you're so dysfunctional. It didn't say that. But the chatterbox speaks in the first person, I'm so dysfunctional. Because if somebody accuses you, you can fight back, right? Like if you were to say something mean to me, I'd be like, hang on, we got an argument going here. But if I said something to myself, well, it's hard to argue that one, right? And the chatterbox comes in and he says, I'm so dysfunctional. I'm so messed up. God can never use me because of my history. And Moses' insecurity in this moment is being fed by his history. And the chatterbox is pulling out his history and feeding it back to him and saying, I've done so many bad things. I'm so wrong. And actually, check this out. Exodus chapter 2, verses 11 through 14. Let's read it together. This is the history that Moses experienced, that the chatterbox is bringing back up again. One day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. Now, what you got to know about Moses is he had grown up inside the house of Pharaoh. He was a Hebrew, but by a miracle, God got him positioned in Pharaoh's house. Now, he went out to where his Hebrew brothers and sisters were, and they were slaves, and they were being whipped and beaten and just really poorly treated. They were the slaves of the Egyptians. So he went out and saw their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day, he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew? And look at what this Hebrew man says back to him. The man said, who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. And in that moment, the chatterbox starts. Who do you think you are? When God says, I want to use you, what did Moses say? Who am I? When Moses started to interject with the Hebrews, who made you ruler? The time between this event and the events in Exodus chapter 3 are 40 years apart. But I can promise you that Moses had those words, who do you think you are, ringing in his head. Who made you ruler and judge over us? The chatterbox starts speaking. I'm sure the same is true in your life. There's a voice from your past, from your history, maybe a parent, maybe a teacher, a coach, coworker, a boss, an employer, someone else in your school, someone you dated one time, someone you were married to, and their voice still And it's not them, it's the chatterbox. But he's just using those words to get at you, right? I'm so dysfunctional. I'm so messed up. And Moses, for his entire life, is listening to this. Who made you ruler and judge? Oh, who do you think you are? You are so dysfunctional. I'm so messed up. I will never be right. I'll never get over this. I'll never get past this. You ever been there before? But here's the hardest part. It's not just the things in our life before we met Christ that bother us. It's all the things that haven't changed since we've met Christ that really bother us. That's a good place for an amen. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's true. Those are the things that bother me the worst. How about you? They're the things that I'm a Christian now, I shouldn't do this, yet that addiction or the habit or the anger or the way you speak or whatever it is, that it keeps coming back and you think, man, I am so dysfunctional. I am so jacked up. But you're not alone. Listen, Moses was right there with you. He's right there with you. And God still says, and he still looks at this dysfunctional human being, this murderer who is now a shepherd on the backside of the desert, and he goes, I want you. I want you to do these great things. And Moses is going, I don't know, who am I? And the chatterbox keeps going. Then after a while, Moses realizes that God's not changing his mind on this. So I'm going to change my argument. Basically, is what Moses does. And he moves to a different category, which is number 2 in your notes. If you're writing this down, check it out. I'm so deficient. I'm so deficient. There's something missing. There's something lacking. There's something in my life that I should have that I don't have. I'm not skilled enough. I don't have the ability to do what God has called me to do. And that's where Moses' argument goes. Now, between Exodus chapter 3, what we just read, and Exodus chapter 4, what I'm about to read, a couple of things happen. And let me just kind of fill you in really quick, all right? Moses is talking to God, and God goes, okay, I'm going to give you a sign that I'm God, not just this burning bush, but a sign that you can take with you to the people of Israel so the people of Israel will believe that I'm God. And so he goes, take your staff. And Moses is like, I got my staff. And God says, throw it on the ground. Throws it on the ground, and it comes a snake. And God's like, grab the snake. He grabs the snake, it comes a stick. Some of you guys would be like, I'm not touching the snake, right? But Moses did, and he turned back into a stick, his staff. And he said, take your hand, Moses, put it in your cloak. He puts it in his cloak. He says, take it out. And it's got leprosy on it. It's got skin disease. It's all white. And he puts it back in, and he pulls it back out again, and it's healed. And he goes, that's a cool trick, God. Thank you for putting my hand back. Right? You know what I'm talking? And he has it, and then he goes, and I've got another one for you. I've got another sign I want to show you, but he can't do it right here. But when you get to the Nile River, scoop out some water and pour it on the sand, and the water will become blood. And these 3 signs will accompany you that the people of Israel will know that I am God and I have sent you. Chapter 4. You guys ready for this? All right. After all these miracles, what happens? And Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. He's saying, I can't speak well, and in the last 5 minutes since this conversation started, nothing's changed. I don't think you realize I can't speak. I have a deficiency. I'm not the man for the job because I don't have the skill or the ability to make this happen. I am slow of speech and tongue. But I love in the next verse how God responds to this. Check it out. Let's read it together. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? God's just kind of reading him the riot act a little bit, right? Moses is saying, I can't speak, I'm not good at it. And God just looks at him. Who put that mouth on your face? Right? Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? And then I think he kind of is like, okay, stupid argument, now go. Right? Like just now go. No. I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. Moses is convinced that his deficiency will hold him back from accomplishing all that God had called him to do. His deficiency was going to keep him where he was instead of accomplishing all the things that God had designed him to do. Because God created him with a purpose and for a purpose, but Moses is going, oh, no, I don't have the ability. I don't have the ability to accomplish that because I'm deficient. There's something missing inside of me. I don't have that ability. And I think all of us are deficient in some way. We all have our excuse. Why don't you pull up this image for me? What is on this screen? Somebody said dots. Somebody said 74. Okay. Most people can see a 74. I'm completely colorblind. I can't see the 74 at all. Like, it does not stand. Who here cannot see the 74 with me? 1, 2. Good. We're the colorblind people in the room, okay? And if you didn't know you're colorblind, well, congratulations, you are. All right? Welcome to the shore. All right? That's a struggle. But here's the deal. For years, I've designed things in Photoshop and done things, and people are kind of going, yeah, it's pretty good, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I remember one day, I was like 27 years old before I figured out I was colorblind. My buddy Adam back here who plays guitar, I said, Adam, what's on this screen? And he's like, it's 74, right? Is what's on there? Okay, I literally can't see it. He goes, it's a 74. I'm like, no way. I'm like, you're messing with me, right? He goes, no. He goes, you can't see that? And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not a good day, right? Just a bad day. And I figured out a deficiency. I figured out that I'm not good with colors. I can't see certain things. They don't stand out to me, right? And the same is true with all of us. We all kind of have this deficiency. Here's just a fun one I want to throw in here to make you angry real quick. Check this out. Oh, man. If you don't know what this is, don't waste your time, okay? All right, this is a blue and black dress. That's what you're... But some of you see a white and gold dress, okay? I get it, all right, put that thing off the screen. We're going to have a riot here in a second, okay? But think about it. Don't we all have some sort of deficiency? Some sort of area of our life that we're just like, oh, I'm not skilled enough. I'm not good enough. I don't see things the way I'm supposed to see them. Does that sound like you? Because it sure sounds like me. When God prompts me to do something, oh God, I don't know if I'm enough of whatever to get that done. And Moses is saying the same thing. But here's the truth. Insecurity really is an insult to God. Insecurity really is an insult to God. If I take a product and I say the product isn't good, isn't it an insult to the manufacturer? If I look at my life and say, you know what, God, I think you made me wrong. Isn't God going to kind of go, who put that mouth on your face, right? If I'm at a nice restaurant with a famous chef and I send the food back, you think he would get angry at me? Right? Now, I don't care about offending a chef or a manufacturer, but when it comes to God, I've got to believe that he made me with a purpose in mind. He made me on purpose for the purpose that he has always designed for me to accomplish. And when I said that purpose that you designed me for, you didn't design me good enough, I think God might go, wait a second, who do you think you are? I don't want to live in insecurity because I don't want to insult God in that way. Do I need to grow? Yes. Do I need to study? Yes. Do I need to get better? Yes. Things I can do, I should do. But the things that God can do, and only God can do, I should leave up to God. And I shouldn't point my finger at God and say, hey, here's the things that you need to change for me to work. I don't want to insult God in that way. And Moses continues. Check this out. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. No excuses. Just kind of like a plea bargain. Like, okay, God, I got no excuses left. I'm dysfunctional, I'm deficient, I'm messed up, but now, God, anyone but me. Just anyone. You ever get to that moment where you're just, God, please, anyone else but me? This is where Moses is. Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses. You know why I think God's anger burned against Moses? It's because Moses was going, you didn't make me right. God's going, no, I put you in the perfect place at the perfect time with the perfect abilities and skills and talents. I am the one who is orchestrating this, not you. And he continues, he goes, the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, what about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. And God keeps talking. He says, he is already on his way to meet you, and he will be glad to see you. When you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will help both of you speak, and you will teach and teach you what to do. He continues, he will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if you were God, he were your mouth, and as you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand so you can perform signs with it, because make sure you can perform those signs. Looking at this, Moses is just like, God, I'm not good enough. I'm deficient. I'm so doubtful. You ever have doubts before about the future, about things that God could use you to do? Moses is going, I don't think I have this put together. And God's going, no. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters who I am. It doesn't matter what you are. It matters who I am. It doesn't matter what you can or can't do. It just matters that I am with you. But here's Moses full of doubt, which is number 3. If you want to write this down, it's the third point. I'm so doubtful. I'm so doubtful. Have you ever thought about a situation and you just thought about that situation getting better and you're just like, you know what, I doubt it. I don't know if it's possible. I don't think it can change. It's just, I doubt it. It's insurmountable. I doubt it. It's the voice of the chatterbox. But here's Moses saying, I doubt. But here's the one thing that's cool. Moses never doubted God. All the excuses and all the doubt were in himself. And I think you're the same way. You see, for years, I was like, God, if I could just believe in you more, and if I could just believe and have more faith, then things would happen. Oh, I would preach to that end. If you believed, if you had more faith, things would happen. God would use you. God would change things in your life if you just believed more. But over the years, I've realized it's not that I need to believe more, that you need to believe more. It's that we just need to not doubt. It's not that we're not doubting God, we're doubting ourselves. Well, we don't doubt that God can, we just doubt that he'll use us to get it accomplished. We don't doubt that God could heal our marriage, but we doubt that he's going to use me to do it. We need a third party to come in here. You don't doubt that God can change the world and reach the city of Sarasota, Bradenton, and Venice, but you doubt he's going to use you to do it. But the truth is, he wants to use you. And when he came to Moses, he said, listen, Moses, you may be dysfunctional. You may not be able to speak. But in that moment, I'm going to get the credit, and, well, you're not. Because I'm going to work through you. It doesn't really matter who you are. It matters who I am. Now, in Exodus chapter 3, there's a continuation of the story. I kind of skipped over it on purpose until now. Check it out. Exodus chapter 3, verses 13 and 14 say this. Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what's his name? Then what shall I tell them? He's saying, God, when I go down there, they're going to ask me a question. Who sent you? What do you want me to say? Because up to this point, the Hebrew people had lived for the last 400 years in slavery. Not hearing from God, but hearing about God. It's always the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The history of God was there, but the present tenseness of God wasn't there. And so he's saying, well, who's going to send me, God? Is it you? Okay, I need to know your name if you're sending me. Kind of like this. Whose authority am I going in? If I tell my oldest daughter to go get her younger daughter, that younger daughter may or may not come. Because siblings, do you listen to your sibling very often? Especially not when you're younger, you really don't, right? But if I say to one daughter to tell the other, Dad says to come, that girl's like, okay, well, I got to go because Dad said. Why? Because she's going in authority. Moses is saying to God, well, whose authority am I going in? Whose name am I going in? And God responds, check it out. God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Excuse me, God? That was pretty ambiguous. Can you give me something a little more concrete, like Richard? That'd be nice. Something like that, right? What? I am. And could you see this scene? Okay, God, I need a name to go in authority. And he's got his number 2 pencil out in his piece of paper, he's ready to go. And he goes, okay, God, what is your name? And God goes, I am. I am. You am what? Where's the rest of this sentence? I am. You're going to have me fill in the blank? What's happening here? He goes, no, I am who I am. And that talks about the present tenseness of God. We kind of miss some of it in the translation from the original language now, but he's talking about the right now of God. Let me finish this verse before I continue in that. He says, God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. So he's saying, tell them I am sent you, which is the same God that they've always heard about. I am who I am has sent me to you, and he's the same God that was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am. So what does that mean? Well, the term I am deals with the present tense. I'm not the God of the past. I'm not a God someday in the future. I'm the God of right now. I am. It's the theological term that you could call it. It's called the isness of God. Isn't that a baller term? The isness of God. Like God was like the original G. Where's the isness? God's got all the isness. You know what I'm talking about? It's really cool. I just thought it was kind of funny. He's talking about the right now, the present presence of God. Not the God of your grandma who's praying for you, right? Not the God of your cousin who lives in another state. Not the God of when you get your act together and your junk cleaned up and you feel like you're good enough, but the God of right now where you are, all in the midst of all of our dysfunction, in the midst of all of our deficits, and in the midst of all of our doubts. He's the God of right now. The God of I am. And I think Moses had some questions. And he's going, God, who's sending me? Whose strength am I going? Because I'm not strong. I'm not strong, God, but God's going, I am. I don't have what it takes. I don't have the ability to accomplish all the things that you want me to do. How am I going to do this? Who's going to go with me? And he's saying, I am. Does that make sense? I am with you right now. I don't know what you're facing in this room this morning, but the answer to every question you have is I am. He's the answer to the question you haven't even asked yet. Who's going to help me? Who's going to be there with me? Who's going to walk me through this? Who's going to give me the skills? And God's going, I am. I am who I am. I am with you in the present tenseness. The present presence of an almighty God is walking with you today. And God says, that's who I am. That's an incredible story, right? But it's not just a story in the past. It's a right now. Pull up this next sentence. Check it out. This is what we often say. I am not, fill in the blank. We can fill it in with a million different things, right? I'm not strong. I'm not skilled. I'm not talented. I'm not good enough. I'm not a lot of different things. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm not responsible enough. But to every single one, God looks at your I am not, and he just raises you an I am. I'm not good enough. I am. I'm not strong enough. I am. I don't have the ability. I am. And God is saying, it's me. It is me who works through you. You didn't need that in your life. I created you with a purpose. If you feel like you're lacking something, it's because I made it that way on purpose. And I'm going to fill in the gaps for you because I am the answer to the question you haven't even asked yet. So let's go back over our points. Check this out. The first point was this. I am so dysfunctional. But God says he is so gracious. I may have messed up in my past, but his grace covers a multitude of sins, right? What's our next one? I am so deficient. I'm lacking. I don't have anything I need, but he is so sufficient. He's going to cover those multitude of needs, those lacks. He's there to fill in the gaps. What's our last one? I am so doubtful, but God, he is so faithful. He is so faithful. He's not a God of who was. He's not the God of someone else. He's not the God of in the future when you get your act together. He's the God of right now. He says, I am. I am. Here's a thought I want you to kind of leave with today. Let's pull this up. It says, I'm not, but I know I am. The chatterbox is going to start going in your head. He's going to say you're not good enough, you don't have the skills, you don't have the ability, that you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, you're not disciplined enough. He's going to say all these things. I'm not. And you can say right back to him, I'm not, but I know I am. I'm not, but I know the one who is. I'm not. I know, I agree with you. I don't have those things, but I know one who does, and he loves me unconditionally, gave his son for me so that I can live in relationship with him, and I can accomplish the purpose that he designed me for. I'm not, but I know I am. Let me say it a different way. Check this out. I don't think I am. I know I am. I don't think I'm the perfect one. I don't think I have it all together. I may be dysfunctional and at a deficit and have my doubts, but I know I am, and he is working on my behalf, and he's working in me, and he's working through me, and he's going to do something great in me. I'm not, but I know I am. And that's the truth that I want all of you to hear today. Stop listening to the chatterbox and listen to the promise and the voice of God over your life. Because the voice we listen to will determine our destiny. The thoughts that we consume will consume us one day. Watch out for the chatterbox. Wednesday night is our first Wednesday service. We do it once a month, first Wednesday. That's why I called it First Wednesday. And I'm going to continue this teaching on crashing the chatterbox, kind of a bonus material that Wednesday night, all right? I've got some extra stuff I want to teach you about. I want to teach you how to extinguish the voice of the chatterbox in you, all right? Because sometimes the chatterbox gets going and you don't know how to shut them up. I want to teach you how to do that, okay? But more importantly than Wednesday night or shutting up the chatterbox, the most important thing is our relationship with God. You see, Moses' relationship with God didn't start when Moses talked to him. It didn't start when Moses gave an excuse, but it started the moment Moses said, okay, God, I'm trusting you. I'm believing you. And I believe that you are greater than me. And God started a friendship with him. The relationship began. And in you, God wants you so bad just to start a relationship with him. And all it takes is faith. All it takes is a little bit of belief, saying, you know what, God, I'm not, but you are, and I want that in my life. I want a relationship with you. And from that point on, God walked with Moses. And there were points down the journey where Moses is like, God, if you leave, I'm not going any further. I need you. I want that relationship with you. And I believe that's the same thing that is the hunger inside each and every one of us. So this morning, here's what I'd like to do with you. I'd like to pray a simple prayer that simply just says, God, I'm giving my life to you. I believe in you. I trust you. I trust you with my entire life. If that's you, why don't you just pray this prayer with me? If you could close your eyes and bow your heads, no one moving around, no one looking around. I just don't want any distractions. I just want this moment to be you and God. And if you're here this morning, you say, you know what, TJ, that's me. I need to start a friendship with God. I need to start a relationship with God. Why don't you pray this prayer with me? It's real simple. God, I pray that you would help me get past my dysfunctions, my sins in my past by forgiving me, God. That you would help me to be free from the deficits of my present or the doubts about my future, God. I want to be a friend of yours. I want to have a greater relationship with you, Jesus. Just like Moses became a friend of yours, I want to become a friend of yours as well, God. So this morning, I'm giving my entire life to you. Thank you, God. In your name we pray. Amen.